There where time is no more, I shall see God. Is no more, I shall see God.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, it is difficult for us to imagine, and yet we know it is true, the life that we have in you as Christians. The invisible realm to us, and yet very visible and very real in your dimension. And we ask, Father, just as this song has reminded us, we ask for the ability to reach across, to touch, to listen to the comfort that you bring to us, and to rejoice in the life that you've given to us through Steve. He's had such an impact, Father, on so many of us, and we ask, Father, that your Spirit would guide this service to honor his memory, honor his legacy among us, and that you would comfort our hearts and comfort the hearts of the closest family, Father. We trust you for all these things. We know this. And yet we need you to touch us, Lord. We thank you for it. In Jesus' name. We misuse the term love. We use it for all kinds of things. But the concept is so powerful as inside of us. That's why we write songs about it, even shallow songs, but also deep ones like what you just heard. And the reason that we sense it in our souls, and that is where we grieve, is in the soul. The reason we sense that is we were created in God's image. And he is three persons sharing one essence. He created us as persons in his image to share life with each other. In families, in friendships, and even in a fallen world, and it is very fallen, and we know this. But even in a fallen world, it is that love, that texture in our lives that gives meaning. And really, pretty much it's the only thing that does give meaning. However, because we were created in his image for that kind of Trinitarian love, which, by the way, is at the center of the universe, that is really where the creation of the universe came from. When you grieve the loss of someone you know and love, in whose life you have become part of the fabric, there's a tearing deep down inside. It hurts really, really bad. And people say, well, this is unnatural, I shouldn't feel. No, it is actually, in a fallen world, it's exactly how we should feel. It wasn't originally designed to be this way. And so when you lose someone you love, the thing we call grief is a tearing on the inside, because we know this is wrong. We shouldn't lose our friends and our loved ones. We should be together. You're right, we should. And that's why the Lord came. And it's that will be healed forever in the next age. It's that is the promise of the resurrection. It's that healing and the absence of all the grief. Now, because we love each other, and because we know each other, and because there's this fabric that we are a part of, when someone passes, what we do is we think of their legacy, because there are things about you that are there in your life because of Steve. And some of you are physically alive because of Steve. I mean, and I'm sure you've been thinking about it since he graduated, since he's with the Lord. I'm sure you've been thinking and maybe telling stories. You remember this, and you remember this, and you remember this, and oh yeah, and he said this, and there's some jokes, and there's some laughs, and there's some good stories, and maybe some sad times, and some music, and all the things that go into the fabric of your life that wouldn't have been there had it not been for Steve. That's a legacy. And we all leave a legacy of one kind or another. So part of what we're here for today is to celebrate that legacy, because the Lord brought Steve into your life to leave something in your life. And that legacy is super, super important. So we're going to spend a few minutes meditating on that. And we're going to begin with a little video. And I would invite you just to watch the video for a little while. And then after that, I'll introduce it, but after that, several of the family members are going to share. Thank you, Russ.
When I get where I'm going, on the far side of the sky, the first thing that I'm gonna do is spread my wings and fly. Gonna land beside the line, run my fingers through his neck, where I might find out what it's like to ride dry the rain. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will share the sins and struggles I have carried all these years. And I'll leave my heart wide open. I will never have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. I'm gonna walk with my granddaddy, and he'll match me step for step. I'll tell him how I've missed him every minute since he left. And I'll hug his neck. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will share the sins and struggles I have carried all these years. And I'll leave my heart wide open. I will never have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down. So much pain, so much darkness, this world we stumble through. All these questions I can't answer, so much work to do. But when I get where I'm going, and I see my neighbor's face, I'll stand forever in the light of his amazing grace. And when I get where I'm there'll be only happy tears. came by today to see you. Oh, I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time I'd have held you and never let go. Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering, and I in the dark just asking why. I've always been told you won't be called home until it's over time. I guess heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through. And I try to make it make sense in my mind. The only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you. I remember the last time I saw you. Oh, you held your head up proud. I laughed inside when I saw how you were standing out in the crowd. You're such a part of who I am. Now that part will just be void. No matter how much I need you now, heaven needed you more. 'Cause heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is that heaven was needing a hero like you. Yes, heaven was needing a hero, and that's you.
Early morning, there's a message on my phone. It's my mother saying, darling, please come home. I fear the worst, but how could you leave us all behind? There's so much to say, but there's so little time. So how do I say goodbye? Someone who's been with me for my whole damn life. You gave me my name and the color of your eyes. See your face when I look at mine. So how do I say goodbye? When I call, you were always
It's perfect outside, it's like God let me down the weather. Got the whole crew here, I ain't seen some of them in forever. It's one of those never forget it, better stop and take it in kind of scenes. Everything's just right, yeah, except for one thing. You should be standing with your arm around me, cutting up, cracking a cold beer, saying cheers. Hey y'all, it's sure been a good year. It's one of those moments that's got your name written all over it. And you know that if I had just one wish, it'd be that you didn't have to miss this. You should be here. Be taking way too many pictures on your phone, showing them off to everybody that you know back home, and even some you don't. Yeah, they say now you're in a better place, and I would be too if I could see your face. You should be here, standing with your arm around me, cutting up, cracking a cold beer, say cheers. Hey y'all, it's sure been a good year. It's one of those moments that's got your name written all over it. And you know that if I had just one wish, it'd be that you didn't have to miss this. Oh, you should be here, you'd be loving this, you'd be freaking out, you'd be smiling, yeah, I know you'd be all about what's going on right here, right now. God, I wish somehow you could be here. Oh, you should be here. Yeah, this is one of those moments.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Steve's sister, Sherry, and we were somewhat birthday buddies. He was born one day after my third birthday, so we're birthday buddies. He was born on Valentine's Day. So it was really cool. And then our life actually started out in Utah. And my little part here, I'm going to kind of give you guys the early part of his life. And it's more like all three of us together in our early days. And we were all born in Utah, and we lived in a small town called Roy. And my mom and dad loved to go boating in a nearby lake, and even up to Yellowstone. Yeah, go to Yellowstone, boating to Yellowstone Lake. And our grandparents, as well as our aunts and uncles, came with us and stayed in these old wooden cabins up there. And up there we experienced some fishing and wildlife. And then at home in Roy, we lived in a small neighborhood with fields surrounding it. In the summer, we would, and I kind of had to be a tomboy to do this, but in the summer we would go out catching lizards and horny toads. I don't know if you've ever seen a horny toad. They're very strange little reptiles. And then in the winter, we had fun making snowmen, and then we also would make snowboards, and we would battle the next door neighbors in snowball fights. So that was kind of fun. And then came the big move for us. We moved to San Jose, California. And our mom and dad started a guitar teaching studio and a music store called Guitar Showcase. And now it's actually a really huge music store, still in business today. And then for our family, Mom and Dad bought us a house with a swimming pool in the backyard, and we loved swimming. We would wear fins, we'd wear masks, and what else? Snorkels, yes. And Mom and Dad had set up a shed for us and helped us get little rooms. And like Steve had hamsters in the shed, and Rob had rats, and I had guinea pigs. So that kind of kept us busy while Mom and Dad were working. And then they always loved boating. Mom and Dad always loved boating. We went from little motor boats to bigger boats to bigger boats. And anyways, they took us on a memorable trip going up to Lake Shasta. And they drove the boat back into this private little cove and docked it on the beach. And us kids hopped out of the boat, put on our fins and our masks and our snorkels. And we waded out into the lake, and to our surprise, there were turtles swimming all around us. And so we caught 4 of the turtles. Well, we couldn't do this now, but we caught 4 of the turtles and brought them home to swim in our swimming pool. And so for quite a few, we fed them, and they stayed for quite a few years, and we would swim the turtles in our swimming pool. So it was kind of fun. And then Mom and Dad continued with boating. Next they were, buying sailboats. Started with a little 26-footer, and as they were getting, more used to sailboats, they got bigger, and they sailed them. Rob knows the size, I don't know the size exactly, but about 45 foot on a sailboat.
52.
52, counting the bowsprit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was probably not counting that. And they sailed that boat all the way down to San Diego, and we actually moved to San Diego. And they did that so that they could cruise up and down the coast of Mexico. And our family moved everything to San Diego, and at this point, I stayed home in San Diego to work the business that we had with, our grandparents and my aunt. And then Dad, Mom, and Steve and Ross sailed down the coast of Mexico, which was probably a pretty neat experience. Steve, we saw it in the picture, he caught a 100-pound grouper fish. I'm not sure if they'll hold that big giant fish. So later on, Steve moved to Utah, where he did mining with Grandpa Stock, and he also did cooking and such in a restaurant, and that's where he met Kathy. During the summers, I remember Steve coming to our barbecues and swim parties, and I'd see him walking across our lawn with a big smile as he joined up with everybody. Looking back to November the 5th, I wonder what did he see when he crossed into life after death? That's what I keep wondering. It's a beautiful place. Was he welcomed by our relatives? Better yet, was he welcomed by our dad? We miss our dad so much. We lost him in 1990. He was only 54 years old. I'm hoping that Steve's with him now. And best of all, has he seen Jesus and looking forward to everlasting life? That's my hope. And someday we're all going to be there. It's just a matter of when. So we have that hope. Thanks, everybody.
Hello, everybody. A little bit of this might be repeat because I have first-hand experience.
Yes, I didn't want to cross over too much.
Oh, yes, no. So when I was thinking about this over the last, almost couple weeks, and just thinking about my brother and our adventures and our family, and how did we grow up as kids, and just so many memories came back because me and my brother we were for best friends for a long time, because I'll get into that, how we were together as a family, and you'll see why we were luckily we were best friends, because we were in very close proximity at times for a long time. So thinking about it, my brother and like me, we have a sense for adventure and loved hunting and fishing and just overall getting into the outdoors. And looking back, that all comes from our dad. Our dad was very much a huge adventure guy, and he just instilled in us the desire to explore, get out, do things. So I'll go through our history because it's really kind of unusual, and I'll try to be brief because there's just so much out there that I could talk about. And we had just an amazing, I guess you'd call it a childhood. They didn't treat us like children, they treated us more like partners. So thinking of my dad, it goes back to his days when he was like about 10 years old. They were really poor, and he was selling little ice creams at the train station in Evanston, Wyoming, when the soldiers were coming back from World War II to make enough money to pay for his clothes and things, because if they didn't have enough money to support that stuff. So he didn't really have much of a childhood. And I'm just going to pick up from that. He's worked really hard in these years. But then we moved to, like Jerry said, California in the 60s, and then things really started changing. He got he actually had a boat, he got a camper, a shell for it, we'd travel. Sherry would stay with Grandma usually on these trips at this point going forward, but we would take that and go up through the different lakes in the U.S., up through the Pacific Northwest and up into British Columbia, just some really nice remote lakes and areas up in there. And then it was a couple of years after that, we started taking hunting trips. Dad took us out, and I actually got my first gun at 11. And so we started doing hunting trips, and that actually started when Mr. Bruce Carpenter was here today. 95 years old, is my dad's best friend, and he was on a lot of these adventures that we'll talk about today. And we started going up into Idaho. Bruce has relatives up there that hunt pheasants. And as it got a year or so later, we got invited to go hunt with the big boys, which was really great. They used to go out, we all did end up going out out into Wyoming hunting sage chickens and antelope. And it was a big event. It's like 4 the adult couples, and then Dad would bring me and Steve, and Bruce brought his son Colby. So we had great times in hunting for those years. Let's see here. On one of those hunting trips, Steve, we were up in the snow up in Wyoming in some really high country, and Steve, that was a big event for his life, and we still got the elk around here somewhere mounted, a really nice big 6-point bull. I think we still have it out at the ranch. The fun thing we brought to the group is, me and Steve at this point were doing a lot of trap shooting, which is, you shoot the clay pigeons. You throw them out with a launcher, and we've been doing it for a couple of years, and we were actually pretty good at it. We're starting to shoot at competitions, so we asked them if we could bring some out into the desert. It'd be a great place to shoot them, because everybody was a shooter that went out there. So they said yeah, so we took about a pickup load full of birds and 5 cases of shotgun shells for a week out there, and we shot them all. So that was like a fun event the kids brought, and the adults, they were all out there having a great time playing as well. And then as we got just a little bit older, probably around 13, my age, it's when Dad got, he just wanted to start sailing. And that's when we started actually with the El Toro, just a little 12-foot boat on the little lakes right around our town in Los Gatos, California. And we did that for a little while, and Dad enjoyed it so much that we ended up moving up to a 26-foot sailboat. It was a little bigger, kind of main sail, and a jib. This other one was just a main sail. And it was a couple years into sailing that boat, and Bruce, I think, might have been a partner in that boat, actually. He's on a lot of our adventures. And then he bought the 52-foot catch. It's a beautiful, neat old boat. It was all built completely out of teak, and it was, what else? Let's see here. So at that point, he was getting pretty serious about sailing. And at that point, he was also able to semi-retire from the publications they had started, Guitar Player magazine. And he wanted to start traveling with the sailboat. So we moved to San Diego at that point, took up residence in San Diego, started prepping the boat, getting it ready for long distance voyaging, and provisioning it, because we were headed to Mexico, and we didn't know how much provisions we were going to need. We're on a 4-month journey. So he took us out of school. I was in 7th grade, Steve was in 8th. So we traveled down Baja, and the main goal was to get to the area of Cabo San Lucas, and we were going to spend time between Cabo San Lucas and the chain of islands that go up to La Paz. There's just excellent diving and excellent fishing. And we pretty much spent 4 months doing that. So that one fish you saw, the really big one, Steve's holding it like this, that was a 105-pound grouper. He actually speared that. It's kind of a funny story, because we've been spearing fish for a couple months, and we just bring them up and we throw them in the boat. And Steve comes up, and Dad's already back in the boat, and Steve says, "Dad, I need help. We gotta get this fish." And Dad said, "Just throw it in." He said, "No, Dad, I think I need some help." Dad came over and looks over the side, and it rolls over, and he sees this fish. It was 105 pounds, and it was just almost as tall as he was. And that was a massive fish. And we had a lot of, the cove we were in, there's a lot of other cruising people doing like the same thing we like to do, just explore the islands and fish. And we had a big old beach party, and we dug a deep hole, the hot rocks, and we buried half that fish and fed about 30 people. Big old beach party. So Dad always trusted us as crew members, really not as kids. And we just kind of learned that lesson about, self-reliance and taking responsibility. Because on the boat, everybody had a job to do, 24 hours a day. We didn't have GPS or radar, so traveling, like when we left San Diego to go to Cabo San Lucas, we didn't see land for 3 weeks. And we didn't have any way of knowing other than we would take measurements from a taffrail log that spins in the water as a prop that will tell you how many miles you're going through water. We'd shoot sun lines with a sextant, so we would know on a line somewhere where we are. And then at night, if we didn't have clouds, Dad would do celestial navigation so we could find out exactly at that point in time where we were on that map, on that line. So the next day starts over, tracking the things we can track by day, and that's how we just ended up going exactly where we needed to go. It took us about 3 weeks to get down there. It was a long sail. It was a lot of fun. But he would trust us. I mean, to me, I was, 12 the first time we went, so I got the midnight to 4 shift, or the 4 to 8. And, I'm a 12-year-old, a 52-foot boat, and I've got the wheel. He trusts us to not mess up, because you got the big waves behind you, and the last thing you ever want to do is spin a boat sideways. So I don't know if I would trust kids these days. I'm surprised he trusted us. Like I said, he treated us like adults, not really like kids. It's like your job. Everybody had a job. You had to do it. Oh yeah, so we're in, it was really kind of fun though at correspondence school, because we could be fishing at the same time we're doing our schoolwork. You put your book down when the rod goes off. So it was kind of a great way to go through school. We'd mail off our test exams we would have to take on the boat. And we would get into port and we would mail them off. And if there was any books that we would get, we had prearranged where they would send books ahead of time throughout Mexico, the places we went, and we would pick up our other books. So that was a great experience. But again, it just being out of school, me and Steve were best of friends. We didn't have any other friends growing up. It's, even well into our teen years, because it was always just me and him. All the trap shooting together, the hunting, the fishing, even when we got home, we'd be together, because after going to Mexico, we get back in June, late July, Dad would take us up in with Bruce. We'd go pheasant hunting. That usually starts like in August, and then the deer and elk season. And so we have a lot of the fall. By the time we get back from Thanksgiving and the holidays, and after the first, we start prepping to go back to Mexico again next year. The second year, we went for 6 months. And this time we went further. We crossed, once we made a direct shot to Cabo San Lucas in the boat, fueled up, and then we went over to Mazatlan. Again, all taking turns with the boat, constantly going down. And we went to Mazatlan, met up with Johnny Smith, a friend of Dad's, was a famous jazz player, and he loved marlin fishing. So we spent time fishing with him, caught some nice marlin, and enjoyed going out on Johnny's boat. Then we worked our way down to lots of different little coves and little towns along the coast on our way to Puerto Vallarta. And we stayed there about a month. We really liked the area. Beautiful, nice and warm. And while staying there, another interesting thing with Mom and Dad is they needed to go back to the States for some business. So they decided to leave me and Steve there. We had the boat anchored in the harbor. And so it was our job to take care of the boat. We got a long list of things to do as well, like paint the mast, paint the booms, do all the teak wood, refinish all the teak wood, scrub the deck. So it gave us enough to do for a good week. But we were able to sneak away every day and go into town. We'd catch the bus, go into town to Puerto Vallarta, and go to Bing's for ice cream. Still some of the best. I've been there again since then. It's still the best ice cream in the world. You get lost for a minute. Sorry. So heading back on that second year, we always try to get back up close to June. One, insurance is a problem to insure a boat. The main reason is because of hurricane season. Well, we caught into one going back the second year. And that was a new experience for us. We've had some pretty heavy weather sailing, but nothing like this. It hit us fast. We didn't know it was coming because you don't have any weather. Again, we don't have the stuff now. You can get anything you want when you're out in the ocean for $89 in a handheld unit back then. So we get hit by it, and luckily it wasn't more than a class 3 because it was somewhere between 60 to 80 mile an hour gusts. So that was probably the most scariest time we had while sailing, having to go up, hook into the harnesses to go up and pull all the sails down. And Mom would take the wheel, while Dad helped us with the mainsail, and then when we got it down, he'd go back, relieve Mom, and then me and Steve would go up and take the two furthest ones down, up on the bow. Those were the most fun. So we got those down, and it wasn't all that long after that, that we just came into a calm. And it's like, you probably ever heard of the eye of the storm. It literally was eerie looking and quiet, and it's flat in there. And we powered through the calm, and we could tell, and you could see when we were going to hit the other side where we're going to get hit from the opposite side of the wind as it goes around. And so we did some things with the boat and got ready for that. Made it through the other side and kept powering until we got out of the storm. And since it was a southerly storm, usually they always come out of, the Hawaiian southern islands up. Gave us a great wind and pushed us all the way home pretty much. Usually it's hard getting up the coast, got to tack back and forth. So we did that for about 4 years, spending up to 6 months a year. And then kind of after that, the next kind of little adventure Dad took us into was, they both all Bruce do planes. We had the float plane era. So we had a float plane, and Bruce spent time with him between British Columbia and Alaska. He took me and Steve up on several trips up into British Columbia where we'd get out on floats and fish for off the floats for fish. And so just everything we did with Dad was an adventure. So that's what I can say. And then for family, togetherness. I mean, we were together, me and Steve, was amazing. We were like best buddies. And for all that time spending on a boat, literally, in very tight quarters, we got along really well. And we had a lot of fun together. We were close enough in age, for like only a year and a half apart. So we were able to just really enjoy all the activities. And with Dad, we were like the three amigos. Every day we either diving or go out fishing with the boat, or going out. We had a little boat with a little motor on it with fish out behind it as well. So it was a fun way to grow up, and a very interesting way to grow up. That's what I could say about Steve. He loved for adventure. He loved getting out. Even just some people here that have been on our fishing trips down the road or on the Umpqua. We continue to still do those. Mike and his family, and Alonzo, and people here, Jesse, still continuing the tradition as well. Getting together and still having those kind of trips. So his legacy will live on through all of his kids and grandkids. And I'm just glad to see it.
Well, I knew most of that, but not all of it. Thanks, Rob. There's an old saying, one of life's injustices, you don't get to choose your relatives. And I would add that you don't get to choose your in-laws. But I am grateful and blessed God chose the Eastman clan to be mine, including Steve Eastman. My brother-in-law, I thought of him as my brother all the time, and one of my closest friends. We laughed together, cried together, worked together, played together, and prayed together. On occasion, Steve would call for advice, which made me feel humbled and blessed that he would trust me discussing even his most difficult private struggles, always ending in prayer at his request. Steve had a big heart, big smile to match. His sense of humor had no limits, literally. He loved to tease, but thankfully I figured out that twinkle in his eyes early on. He loved any joke, even my bad jokes. He'd begin smiling and laughing even before I got to the punchline. The projects that he and his family, as you just witnessed, tackled also seemed to have no bounds. They never let lack of knowledge, education, or experience stop them. From starting music stores, major magazines, direct marketing businesses, diving for gold in faraway places, sailing, to acquiring a 200-acre ranch and raising everything you can imagine. Rex rabbits, ferrets, chickens, pigs, sheep, goats, cattle, and eventually dinosaurs. So we found out if you cross a Simmental cattle with a Brahma bull, you get this monster creature called the Zimbra. And the ranch began to morph into feelings of Jurassic Park with these things. And Steve was always in the middle of all that. And Steve's love for adventure was also boundless. He loved it, as you just heard, he loved to hunt, fish, pen for gold, dive for gold, dig for gold. He loved boats, everything outdoors. At one time, Steve was a licensed gun dealer, buying and selling. He used to reload his own ammo and was an excellent marksman with both pistols and rifles. Steve was always the designated cook because of his natural amazing skill for cooking any type of meat that you threw at him. Deep down, Steve was generous and kind. If you were riding down the road with him and he spotted someone off the side with a flat tire, there was no way Steve's not going to stop. He'd have the car up on jacks, asking if they wanted him to rotate their tires as well. Many stories, but the story I'd really like to share, I can't, because actually it may not be entirely legal, but it was for a noble cause. I will share one story, that story in private with Steve's children, but I will share one quick story that I'm sure Rob will remember. So at Musician's Friend, we had these guitars that were defective, broken, unrepairable. So Steve and Rob came up with this crazy idea that let's use them as target stands and shoot them. So off in the pasture, I think we had a couple of dozen of these things, and we set them all up. And I can't remember I know me and Steve and Rob were there. There maybe have been other people there. But Steve got the crazy idea to put these exploding targets on the guitars. And we buried the headstocks in the ground. If you can imagine this crazy idea. And we all stood back like a firing line. Steve's got his .44 Magnum, which was always his gun of choice. And on the count of three, we all opened up fire. And, it's just this explosion. We didn't need to be firing that big of guns. But when it all stopped and the smoke cleared, I look over at Steve, he's got this big smile, and he goes, "Wow, let's do that again." That was Steve. Revelation 21:4 says, I'll be brief, says that God himself will personally wipe away every tear from their eyes. I believe Steve is joined with his earthly father. Knowing those two, they're probably plotting an expedition to figure out where the source of gold is that God is using to pave all those heavenly streets. And I am so grateful that God chose Steve to be in my life. I'm honored to call him my brother-in-law. The color he added to our lives is irreplaceable. I always envision Steve's mischievous grin, twinkle in his eyes, and whenever I think of him, he will forever live in my heart.
Hey everyone, most of you probably know, I'm Steve's son. Probably saw from the pictures. Been a third of them. I have two of my sisters here today. I'd like to share a few things about my dad, what kind of man he was. And when somebody dies, somebody that you love, you kind of look around and you wonder what's left, right? His possessions, things like that. None of that really matters. It's really the impression that he left on us, on our family, friends. And it's important. I mean, that's his legacy. That's what we remember him by. And, he did it right. He lived life well. He left a strong, profound impression on us. And that's something that, for me is probably the most important lesson that he taught me in life. And it wasn't when he was alive. It was after he died. That he left this profound impression on us that, that's what we leave behind. So I really appreciate him for that and for being that kind of person. And I would hope to be able to do the same. If I think about how he did it, the main thing is he had a huge heart. Really cared for other people. He put people before himself. Always helped him almost to a fault. So that's That's who he was. He loved helping, caring for other people. He was always there. And I mean, I think everybody in this room probably knows that. I mean, just talking to him for 5 minutes, somebody that he doesn't even know or never met, they can tell that he had a big heart. And that was amazing. That's the one thing, the main thing that I'm gonna really remember from him. The other things, so if you think about all the stories that Robin and Sherry told in the pictures, is that he had that nonstop sense of adventure. And that was contagious. It was awesome. He did some amazing things. The float planes going up into Canada, or, all those sailing trips, he had a great time. He loved it. As I got older, I got to do some of this stuff with him too. We went down Golden Dorado fishing in the Amazon. All the countless fishing trips to Mexico, or the steelhead trips that we do every year with the group here. He loved it, and he made it so the other people there would love it too. That's how it was contagious. And that's something that I'm carrying on. I mean, that's something I look forward to as well. I mean, that's how you live. You go do things like that. You go experience life, and he really knew how to do it. And then the last thing really is that he never gave up in life. He fought for what he believed in. He fought for the people that he believed in as well. And he was stubborn, but in the best kind of way. He fought death for years. I think it was 2005, he had his first heart attack. Doctor said, your heart's no good. And he just fought and fought. I was worried at one point he wasn't going to get to meet his grandkids, my kids. And he fought through it. He was there. And so I'm thankful for that. Thankful that he, even this last year, he really just, we bought the lodge in the Applegate, and he just busted his butt helping us. Mowing the lawns every week, driving an hour from the ranch. I mean, it was amazing. And he knew that was something that was really going to help us, and he did it through the pain he was going through. So it's just incredible that even up until that, last year of his life, that he was pushing, fighting, and death finally caught up to him. But he went many rounds for finding out. So what can I learn from? Live in the moment, cherish the time with your family, and just be present. Enjoy life. On that last day, I was there with him. I was fortunate to be at his house. And it was a good day for him. He was just hanging out, we were joking, pulled out this flyer, out hunting in Idaho, talking about going hunting. He's talking about fishing on his pontoon boat. And I sat there, we had a beer, and it was a good day. And 30 minutes later, he was gone. But he left this world with a smile. And so he knew how to do it right. I appreciate that clearly. Thanks.
So quiet here. So I wrote everything down because I know I wouldn't remember. We appreciate all you guys being here. Every single one of you tells a story. What his life was, just decades of stories. And it would have been a comedy. He was always laughing, and loved his laugh. But more importantly was he loved to make people laugh. He loved people and bringing them together. It was a barbecue or whatever we were doing. He was always trying to get us together. And he always made people feel welcome and accepted and loved. It was just his personality to just... He had a heart of gold, which makes sense because he was gone on Valentine's Day. And family. His family was number one for him, his grandkids, his kids. It was important to him. And he meant a lot to a lot of people. But to me, he meant the world. He was my best friend. He was my mentor and my dad. And missing him is hard, but we loved hard. We never left each other without saying I love you and giving a big hug, which is how our family is. So now I have 1,000 memories to cherish.
Thanks, you guys. Memories indeed, and legacy, and the impact on his kids and his grandkids and his friends. We grieve, but my friends, we do not grieve hopelessly. I want to share a verse. I won't take too long with it. But on the night before Jesus died, this is recorded in the Upper Room Discourses, the night before he died. He spoke to his friends knowing they would go through a grief beyond their wildest imagination within the next 36 hours. And he still speaks to us. The Lord still speaks to us through these things. And I want to read the passage to you and then bring out exactly what he says to us when we lose someone we love. Because like I said, we don't grieve hopelessly. We do grieve. We don't pretend that this doesn't hurt. But it's not hopeless. And here's why. Jesus said to his friends, and there's just the 12 of them upstairs, and he's making good eye contact with them, and they had a meal together, and he knew what was coming. He said, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God and believe in me." In fact, in Greek it says, you already believe in God, you need to believe in me. You trust me, he said. Did you ever do that with your kids where you look at them and you go, come on, trust me here. I know what I'm doing. And the kids look at you like maybe you don't know what you're doing. But you do know what you're doing. And that's exactly what he knew what he was doing. He knew what heaven looked like. And he said, do not let your heart be troubled. Trust God and trust me. In my Father's house are many rooms, very famous passage, meaning this is multi-dimensional and it goes beyond what you can imagine. If it weren't so, would I have told you that I'm going to go prepare a place for you? This is a real place we're going. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way. You know the way. Now, if you know this passage, the next guy to talk is the guy we call Doubting Thomas, and he was always the guy who said, yeah, I'm just not sure about what's going on here. He said this several times. And Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How are we supposed to know the way? And of course, the way isn't a map, the way is a person. It's a person. Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. What a stunning thing for a human being to say to his friends in the face of death. To say, I am the way. Not, I'm going to show you the way. I'm going to help you be good so maybe you'll get there on your own. No. I am the way. You take my hand. I am the way. No one comes to the Father except through me. And that's why Jesus said, you believe in God, you have to trust me. I really am the Son of God. And of course, they had a hard time believing for the next 3 days until they saw him again. And it wasn't a resuscitation, it was a resurrection. He came back in a new body. He wasn't just resuscitated like an NDE. He came back and he said, now, this is what this whole thing's about. And it is what it is about. This is where the hope is. Remember what he says. don't let your heart, the Greek word there, tarasso, it means to don't let your heart be torn all apart. You already know that God is there. Even people who say they don't believe in God, they know the God they don't believe in. They know which one they decide not to believe in. People do know who God is. Jesus says, I really am the Son of God. I'm a human and I am deity. And if you'll take my hand, you will live forever. Trust God, said Jesus, and trust me. Why? Well, because there's more to life than meets the eye. That's why he said, I'm going to a real place. The other dimension is very real. In fact, it's more real than this. And anybody who's in an NDE, been there and been back, they all say the same thing. I didn't want to come back. They all say the same thing. And that it's more real than real, more real than this life. That's exactly what Jesus taught. That's why he said, you have to trust me about this. There's more to life than meets the eye. There's more to life than meets the eye. This isn't the end. And he says, finally, if you'll take my hand, I'm the only one who can get you there. I am the only one who can get you there. And Steve had the Lord's hand, and the Lord had Steve's hand. In Psalm 139, verse 16, it says that the Lord knows our days, the number of our days, since before there were any of them. And in the Hebrew there, it means he crafts the days. He literally crafts the days for the people that belong to him. You come to the Lord, suddenly your life has a crafting to it. And the number of days, the Lord knows when he's waiting for you to come home, and he's there waiting for you when you do come home. In the Revelation, the book of Revelation, John, in the very beginning of the vision, John was the last of the apostles to die. And all of his friends had already died. All of his friends, all of his close friends, and most of them killed, martyred. And he was in his high 90s when he had this vision and when he wrote the Revelation. And the beginning of it, there's this vision of the Lord Jesus. And John probably thought he was dying. He says, I fell at the Lord's feet as a dead man. And he reached out his hand to me. And he said, don't be afraid. I am the beginning and the end, the first and the last, and I was dead, and I am alive forevermore. And I have the keys. I have the keys to death and Hades. So we do not grieve hopelessly. We do not grieve hopelessly. We do grieve. But we know that what we're seeing in this age, and including aging and death, this is not the end. This is pre-life. And that's why at times like this we look to each other, and especially those of us who are knowing the Lord and walking with him, when we look at each other and we say, you should come to Christ. You should trust God and trust Christ. Because that's all it takes. You don't have to act religious. Ask Steve. You do not have to act religious. You need to trust the Lord Jesus. It's simple faith. Simple faith. You simply say, Lord, you're right. I am wrong almost all the time. And I'm throwing myself on your mercy. Would you please save me? It's that simple. It's that simple. And that's what brings hope. That's what Jesus meant when he said, you trust God, you trust me. So we released Steve into the Lord's hands. He would not come back, even if we took a vote. He would not come back. He's healthy and he's strong and he's young. And if you think you have adventure here, and God created this, and God says where I'm going and what I'm making is so much better, there's adventure there too. We released Steve into the Lord's hands.
There where time is no more, I shall see God. And I'm older, much older now, I still believe. When all else is gone, the rock of ages cracked for me. Oh, there's something